start using Tor to access the Pirate Bay. What does that mean for the scalability of the system? If like 30, 40, 50,000 new users turn up in a relatively short period?
It means we need to get Tor faster, especially for people fetching small files. Because a lot of those people are only going to be fetching tiny files in order to bootstrap into the rest of their networks. So in theory, it wouldn't ruin the rest of the Tor network, in the same way that it would ruin the Tor network if a bunch of people actually started sharing files and doing file sharing and stuff over Tor. Where is the feedback coming from? Nobody knows? Okay, so in theory, it won't kill Tor. I mean, that isn't really what Tor was designed for. My goal with respect to all the people who want to dump lots of more traffic over Tor is how do we make Tor survive that while still being usable for the folks from Iran who want to do Twitter and people in the US who want to look at Amazon without getting put in their database and stuff like that. So our goal is to have all these different uses while surviving the people trying to overload it. That's how we kill the feedback. We turn off the mic.
How do you plan to deal with old clients and old relays? So if you've got all these new features, they might break if half the network is running old versions.
So the question is, how do we transition these things? How do we...
Yes.
Yeah. For every single situation, we need to ask ourselves, first of all, is it going to be compatible if we roll out this new version at the same time as the old version? And then the worst question is the partitioning attack. If you can tell whether this user is upgraded, and not very many people have upgraded yet, then they're going to stand out. They're going to look different. You can attack them better. You can partition them out. So a lot of these things, we need to roll them out on the relays in a way that doesn't let you partition the users. If you're rolling them out on the clients, then perhaps the approach is we should give the clients the feature but not turn it on. And then 6 months later, when a lot of people have upgraded, then we flip the switch and suddenly all the clients get the new behavior. That also has the really useful feature that if we screw up, we can turn the switch back and then fix it and roll out a new one.
We have one or two questions.
I just wanted to put two things together that you mentioned. You said that you could have rate limiting in the client, but then people would just run a patched version to get the high speed. Also, you said maybe relays should have incentives. So why not just provide the patched version yourself to relays? I mean, you tick the box that says, I want to be a relay, and then you get rid of rate limiting. Would that work? Or rather, tell me why it wouldn't.
There are some anonymity systems out there that build their network by making people sign little statements saying, I won't be a bad person. And that sort of works policy-wise as long as you already trust everybody and you're in a small community. Part of the challenge with Tor is our anonymity comes from the diversity of relays out there. Once upon a time, Tor was just the people who found me at conferences and said, hey, Roger, you convinced me to run a Tor relay, I've signed up. But that scaled even less well than I thought it would. By the time we got to like 30 or 40 relays, I was getting mail from people in Moscow, people in Venezuela, people in Argentina, people in China, Japan, everywhere saying, I want to help out. And since our anonymity comes from the diversity of where these relays are, we can't say no to them. How am I going to make some guy in Moscow that I've never met sign a little thing saying, I promise to...
Yeah, I didn't mean to sign anything. I just meant a tick box in the when you install. It says I want to run a relay, so please remove the speed.
The honor system, where if you're a relay, then click here to get faster service, and maybe. I mean, we've got a lot of users out there right now who are trying to BitTorrent over Tor, even though we beg them not to. So, I mean, it really depends what sort of adversaries they have in mind, what sort of threat model they have in mind, how concerned they are for their own safety versus helping out other people around the world. Maybe. It might work. I don't know. It seems a bit risky, though.
And the very, very last one?
I just noticed in your statistics that there are exit nodes in China. are they really make sense, and where do they come from? It's really strange.
So China is actually number 3 or number 4 by country in terms of providing exit relays. And what a fine question. It's also number 3 or number 4 by users. So I think a lot of the relays that we get are people who install Tor, and then they're looking through the dialogues and they find help save the world and they decide click save the world. I think that's roughly how our Chinese translation for make me a relay turns out to be. So I think there are a lot of people who press the button and then they set up new relays. A lot of them are at universities and they've got good bandwidth. So, I mean, in terms of where they're coming from, I think that's perfectly reasonable that there are lots of Tor clients who turn into relays. In terms of having exit relays in China, the next question that comes to mind, if I'm trying to look at BBC through Tor and I happen to pop out of China, it's blocked. I can't get it. So here I am in the Netherlands getting censored by the Chinese government. And, I mean, it gets even messier than that. We found an exit relay in China that was doing SSL man-in-the-middle attacks on all its users. So if you pop out through that exit node, it takes off your SSL certificate for PayPal or whatever, and it puts on its own certificate for the province of whatever it was. So here I am in the Netherlands getting man-in-the-middle by the Chinese government. How do we deal with exit relays that are like that? On the one hand, the easy answer is, well, let's cut China out of the network. China's bad, everywhere else is good, and then we'll be safe. But that's not true. I mean, if I try to visit certain websites from Australia, I get censored by them. If I try to visit certain websites from Germany, I get censored by them. If I try to visit certain websites, I mean, the list goes on and on. Every country out there has its own list of things that you can't quite reach from those places. Gambling websites, you can't reach from the state of Minnesota at this point. They've enforced that on Verizon and Comcast and so on. So the bigger question is, the internet is not flat. You can look at it from different ways and see different things. And how do we handle that inside Tor? And that's a good lead-in to the censorship panel, which will happen in an hour. Thank you.
So in around 5 minutes, we will stay on the privacy issue, and we will hear a talk by Mike Brennan, 5 minutes or so.